Mic check 1 2. Everybody good out there? Good afternoon. Good to see everybody again. Welcome to today's media availability with our Tennessee offensive staff. Here's the format for today. We'll bring up Coach Heupel. He will make some opening remarks, and then we'll start our Q&A session with our assistant coaches. The tentative schedule is as follows: 12:10, offensive coordinator and tight ends coach Alex Golish. 12:25, wide receivers coach Cody Burns. 12:40, offensive line coach Glenn Ellerbee. 12:55, quarterbacks coach Joey Halzle. And approximately 1:05, 1:10, running backs coach Jerry Mack. Today, we ask that you please state your name and affiliation so the coaches could get familiar with your faces and your names. And as a reminder, please keep your screen muted until we call on you. It's my pleasure to bring up Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel.
Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Wanted to start today just by wishing the late General Neyland a happy birthday. It's an honor to have the opportunity to walk in the footsteps behind him and what he helped build here. Also to get an opportunity to be able to talk about our offensive staff, the men that we've collected that will help lead our program here in the future. Guys that are energetic, passionate. They're great teachers of the game. More importantly, they're going to invest in our young people off the field. I really do believe if you take that perspective, you're going to win. You're going to win off the field, and you're going to win on the field as well. A group of guys that some of them I've been with here the last couple of years, and some of them that are new to what we're doing offensively, but bring in a great background, both on the recruiting side of it and the development of players as well. Alex Golish, our offensive coordinator, coming with me from UCF. Served in a coordinator position last year. We'll coach our tight ends. Before that was at Iowa State, part of rebuilding a program there that obviously has become a national power. And you look at his ability to recruit, just his track record of being one of the top recruiters in every conference that he's been in. Great ties to the junior college ranks as well. Will do a great job of serving us as a football program. Has a great understanding of what we do offensively, the tempo that we want to play with, how to create miss, and does a great job of teaching the game to our guys as well. I think you look at his development of the tight ends through his tenure as a coach, has developed some guys that have become all-conference players, Mack Award finalists. Looking forward to having him here, and obviously our tight ends are as well. Second guy I'd like to talk about is just Cody Burns, a guy that I actually recruited coming out of high school before he went to Auburn to play football. So I have a long track record with him, just dating back to him in his high school days. Have watched him from afar. Great player, unselfish, and a guy that post playing career. Has just done a phenomenal job on the recruiting side of it and also developing of players. Served in a co-coordinator title last year at Auburn. Played in this league, understands this league, has recruited it, done it at a really high level, and excited about having him as a part of our staff. Glenn Ellerbee, our offensive line coach, coming with me from UCF. Glenn and I have been together the last 5 years. Was a part of turning around the offensive side of the football when we were at Missouri together, leading the league in offense our years there together. Went with me to UCF. Phenomenal teacher of the game. You look at offensively what we've been able to do, the ability to protect the quarterback and the ability to run the football. I think all of our offenses were top 25 in rushing the last 3 years at UCF. Guy that's going to be great off the field, tremendous recruiter. And is a great technician. Has the ability to teach these guys at a really high level. Have already seen that with some of the stuff that we've been doing with our players here. Their ability to comprehend and retention. They're excited about what's going on there. Joey Halzle will be coaching our quarterbacks. Joey and I have been together the last 13 years on the coaching side of it. He played for me at Oklahoma. Was in a room with the Heisman Trophy winner and Sam Bradford. Transitioned to the coaching side. Been a part of high-level development of the quarterback at that position. Part of Landry Jones, who I think finished fourth in the history of college football in passing yards when he finished. development of Drew Lock at Missouri, second-round draft pick. Look at what he's done with Dylan Gabriel at UCF, leading the country in passing at one point this year. He understands the game, does a great job of teaching it, understands the fundamentals, understands the scheme, and will do a great job of developing that position. And I think that's one of the most undercoached positions in all of football, the ability of the coordinator or the guy that's coaching that position to really understand, footwork, eye training, body position, to allow those guys not to just understand scheme, but to understand how, the position you got to be in to be successful, to be accurate with the football and be decisive. And he'll do a great job there. The last guy I'm going to talk about is Jerry Mack, who will be coaching our running backs. Look at his track record coming from Rice as an offensive coordinator, understanding the entire perspective on the offense side of the football. Was a tremendous head coach. I think Coach of the Year honors maybe 3 times during his head coaching career. He gets it from a global perspective, just how to run a program and what we're doing offensively. We'll get caught up to speed on what we're doing. Just being in the room with him already, he's got tremendous ideas on things that we can continue to grow and develop in. We'll do a great job of teaching our running backs and controlling that position. And excited about having him here and a great group of men that will do a tremendous job of instilling confidence, energy and passion, work ethic in our young guys, and excited about them being a part of what we're doing and getting our guys going offensively. And again, for us on the offensive side of the ball, we're going to play with tempo. We're going to play in space. We're going to apply pressure to the defense consistently, and got a group of guys here on the offensive side of the football that are ready to go lead that charge. Guys, I appreciate it. Go Vols.
Thank you, Coach. We'll get Coach Golish on here shortly, and we'll start with him and then take questions for Coach. We'd like to now introduce Coach Golish. We'll turn it over to Coach now, and then we'll take questions.
Awesome. Thank you. Just start off how fired up I am to be here. Myself, my family, incredible opportunity for us. Obviously joining Coach Heupel, being with Coach Heupel the last year, and growing within the offense and continuing to develop and go in a direction we want to go. Obviously, incredible opportunity to come to Knoxville here, coordinate the offense, get us going in the right direction here as we start spring ball. These next couple of months are going to be huge for us in terms of developing the system, developing our guys, continuing to grow within the system, and honestly, continue to evaluate who fits, how they fit, both from a positional standpoint, both as an overall offensive scheme standpoint, and doing a really good job of trying to fit the scheme to what our guys can do, how we anticipate them growing within the strength program over the next 6 months. But what an incredible opportunity to come here, the tradition, the great players that have come through here, the great coaches that have come through here, and putting everything behind us and continuing embracing the past and obviously growing for the future. So couldn't be more excited. Like I said, it's a huge opportunity for me, huge opportunity for our offensive staff, huge opportunity for Coach Hype, and him assembling a staff, working together to really bring the best staff offensively that we could put together. The greatest part about our staff is there's continuity. We've worked together in some capacity. Being able to bring Jerry Mack into that is going to be an incredible opportunity for us to be able to hit the ground running. We already have, but just the communication, the verbiage, how we work together, we're ahead of the ball there as far as I'm concerned offensively with the direction we're going. The continuity part of it is huge, and Coach Hype allowing us to build it that way is going to be huge. So again, excited, fired up, can't wait. We're going to control what we can control in terms of assembling this roster to fit what we want to do, but again, building around the roster in terms of schematically what we can do here for the next year to 2 years. So from there, I'll take questions.
All right, questions for Coach? Here, let's get his mic unmuted there at the podium. 1 second, Coach. All right, reminder, please state your name and affiliation for Coach so he can get familiar with you. We'll start with David Oven, and then we'll go to David Pastor.
Hey, Alex, David Oven with The Athletic. If you're a player and you're kind of preparing for spring, how do you learn this offense? How are you teaching this offense to players as they kind of prepare for spring practice?
Yeah, David, really good question. You know, the way we play is unique. I think that's probably been highly publicized. People that have looked into what we were doing at UCF, it's unique. You got to start big picture in terms of how we play, both schematically and tempo, and then start to hone in on the run game, the pass game scheme part of it. So we've already started on that part of it, big picture, and then working back down to the fine details of how we operate. But operationally, being unique, that's where it all started. Lining up, splits, tempo, how we call things. You're starting at bare minimum ground zero because it is so different than what the guys that are currently here have been used to. But big picture down to small picture, and then as we get closer to spring and throughout spring, really fine-tuning the fundamental technique part of everything that we're doing. But throwing it from a big picture standpoint at them and then pulling back and really breaking it down little by little.
How long do you feel like it takes for guys to get comfortable with this offense where, I guess people talk about you're playing without thinking, but how long do you feel like it takes for guys to feel like, okay, we're just playing football?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think until you get out there and do it day one of spring ball, mid-March, late March here, until you get out and physically see it, control it, run it, I think it's really hard to simulate the actual speed of how fast we want to play. So you're coaching it, you're teaching it, you're explaining it, you're walking through it. But I think until there's wood in the fire on that deal and you're out there and you're by yourself, no coaches around, I think it's really hard. My hope is by practice 4, 5, 6 of spring, we are hitting at a high tempo. But just like any scheme, it doesn't really matter. Repetition over everything. The more reps these young guys have at it, the better we're going to be. And it's just force feeding them the information, letting them make mistakes, and then correcting the mistakes off film. So the hope would be by somewhere the middle of spring, we're operating at a high clip. But we're just going to continue to coach it. Obviously, it's a process-based deal in terms of little by little continuing to build. And obviously, by the time we get to August and September, we're hitting at full cylinder. So, but the hope would be middle of spring.
Alex, David Pascal down here at the Chattanooga Times Free Press. When you think of UCF and like Dillon and McKenzie before him, you think of a lot of athleticism at the quarterback position. Have you kind of studied who you've got already and how much of you talked about fitting the offense? You do have some different body types and styles at quarterback that you're inheriting. How much is that going to play a factor into what you guys ultimately end up doing?
It's a really good question, Dave, too. It's going to be a matter of finding the guy that can do both at a really high rate. There's guys here that have played. You got Hendon, who played at Virginia Tech considerable amount. It's going to be a matter of the same way, force feeding it, and then seeing who can handle it from a mental aspect, and then obviously who can handle it from a physical aspect. I think the way the offense is built, you don't have to say that it's got to be ultra mobile quarterback. You don't have to say it's got to be a pocket passer. I think so much of this offense revolves around the quarterback and being able to manage it, being able to operate within the system. it happens really fast. And really, that's across the board at every position. You've got to be able to process information quickly. You've got to be able to process defensive looks quickly. And so I think at the quarterback position in particular, who can grasp it the quickest, who can operate within the system, and then who can excel within the system. I don't think we have that answer. I know we don't have that answer right now, and I don't think we'll have that answer at the end of spring. I think this is going to be, at that position specifically, a 6-month process to get to week 1 and roll with the guy that you feel is the most prepared and the most functional in terms of running the offense. I think all those guys just watching through, I mean, when I say we've investigated that room specifically, going back and watching film here, going back and watching high school film, talking to high school coaches, talking to the college coaches in Hendon's case, and really trying to have at least an idea of what the guys are capable of, both from a mental aspect and a physical aspect, and then growing within our system to see how guys can handle it. You know, even Salter's coming in. What is he capable of? You know, that whole room, those guys are so uniquely different. I think you're going to try to find the guy that can do the best job of operating within the system. And at the end of the day, it's who can create plays, who can not turn the ball over, and who can continue to get us positive yardage. If it's with their feet, great. If it's with their hand, with their arm, awesome. For us, I think Coach Heupel will tell you the same thing. He's played in a similar system with different types of quarterbacks. So it's going to be a matter of operating within the system and being able to create plays. And the way we're built, the way we're going to continue to develop how we're building it is being able to do it with your legs. Obviously, young men that can run certainly helps. It creates a different dimension to the entire offense, but we can adjust and go off of that. It's the same thing from a personnel standpoint. You know, what are we personnel? At the end of the day, we're going to play with the best 11 guys on the field, and we've got the ability to adjust and play in different sets and vary tempos based on that. So the biggest thing here, especially at the quarterback position, is put a bunch on them, make them learn it, see how they grow and process information within the system, and then adjust off of that as we actually get ready to game plan.
Blake, Tom Martin, and Brent Owens.
Hey, Alex, Blake Tommyer with KnoxNews Sentinel. During your time at Iowa State, I was wondering, what were your impressions of what Josh was doing offensively while he was at Missouri and UCF, and what made you want to be a part of kind of how he approaches offense?
Yeah, Blake, you know, fascinating. You when you're coaching somewhere off season, you end up coming to decisions on who do you want to study, who do you want to be, who do you want to look at to see if you can steal something, right? This, our whole profession, you're stealing ideas from everybody else. So the offense Josh was running at Mizzou, then obviously growing within the similar system at UCF, I was always fascinated by. Really, we were as a staff when I was at Iowa State. So I studied it. And as you study it and you're fascinated by certain aspects of it, you tend to, on a Saturday night, if you play an early game, you'll flip it on and watch it. I was always fascinated by how the tempo operated and the variety of things you can do. You know, really, really balanced run pass. Everything still starts with running the football. So there's a lot of those core principles that you grow up and grow within the profession, that things you want to do. How it operated from a tempo standpoint, I was always fascinated by. So I always watched it from afar, studied it. Really, probably my last 2 years at Iowa State, really dove into studying it, incorporated a lot of those concepts. And so from afar, watching it, seeing it grow with two different quarterbacks, I was fascinated by it. So when the job came open, I was so intrigued to dive into it. I think what makes Coach Heupel so unique is he's kind of lived different lives offensively, from what he played in, from when he was a tight end coach to a quarterback coach, then being able to coordinate it himself, and then moving on to Utah State and Missouri and then UCF, just how his process has grown into what it got to at UCF his first couple of years there. I think what's unique about Coach Heupel is his humility in terms of listening to ideas, seeing ideas, and 99% of the time when I bring something up, he's done it. He's run some version of it. And I think that's what makes him so unique, is that never do you bring something up and it's the first time he's seen it or heard of it. And so his ability to adapt, his ability to take ideas, us bouncing ideas off of each other. He's a football guy. We'll sit all day and talk ball. Not the last probably 2.5 weeks here, but in a normal situation setting, he is an incredible mind to sit and bounce ideas off of and really go round and round until you come up with what you believe is the best way to do it. And he's super supportive. I feel like I'm super supportive to him. It's a really, really good match in that regard.
Brent?
Coach, this is Brent Hobbs with BallQuest and Rivals.com. Simple question. Everybody plays spread. Everybody plays fast. Why does this offense work, and why has it been able to work everywhere that it's kind of been in place, as a follow-up to Blake's question? And secondly, how much faster is the install capable of doing, because you guys as a coaching staff are so familiar with you?
Yeah, Brett, I think the second part of your question I hit on earlier. I didn't mean to cut you off there if I did. But I hit on it earlier. Our staff continuity, the fact that Glenn Ellerbee, Joey Halzle, those two spots specifically, the quarterbacks and the offensive line, those guys having been in our system, Cody getting hired at UCF and us spending some time with him and really going through the interview process with Cody there, then obviously coming here, that part of it makes it super easy. That was a huge part of us coming together, was the ability, one, that we're all on the same page, two, that we're all in this thing together. There's no egos in that room. And so the ability to talk through it, communicate through it, study it, and then be able to teach it to our young guys is absolutely huge. Jerry Mack, hiring Jerry, the biggest component to us picking Jerry and then at the end of it going after him was the fact that he's been a coordinator. He's seen it done certain different ways. He's been a head coach. For me in that room, I wanted a guy that had done it, been in charge, somebody that could help me as we navigate, obviously, a new conference, new defenses. And so him really coming in and learning it, and then us being able to teach it. Because I think once you know it, once you've been in it, obviously the teaching part of it becomes easier. So for us to be able to hit the ground running, I think that part was absolutely huge. In terms of everybody running spread offenses, I guess I'm not 100% sure on everybody being the term there, but we are, however you want to classify what we do, our system allows us to play really fast. Our system of communication, our system of installation, our system of how the quarterback is taught is what allows us to play fast. So as we study other people's schemes, as we study other people in terms of how they operate, we have the flexibility to be really multiple. So I think sometimes it maybe gets generalized into a box. I think from a media perspective, it's easy to kind of put us in a certain box. At the end of the day, we want to be really balanced. We want to run the ball. We want to throw the ball when it's available. We want to run plays into good looks. We want to throw plays into good looks. And at the end of the day, we're trying to create matchups to be able to go and score points. So whether you want to call it spread, whether you want to call it tempo, whatever it is, I try not to put it in a box because we can be so multiple. We have been so multiple. And the uniqueness of our staff as well, kind of guys coming from different places, Cody coming from Auburn, me coming from Iowa State a year ago, Glenn and Joey being there already. Now you've got Coach Mack, who's coming from a different system as well. But being able to put it all together, at the end of the day, until we get out there in spring and really see what these guys are capable of doing, we won't really know what we look like. We know systematically what we want to be. We know from a tempo standpoint what we want to be. But until we get out there and we figure out who are the best 11 players, at the end of the day, we got to get our best 11 out there and we got to play fast. And that'll give us the best chance to win as we continue to build the roster.
Really quickly, two more questions for Coach Golish. Patrick Brown, and Jordan Kramer.
Hey, Alex, Patrick Brown with Vols 24/7. You obviously talked a lot about the offense here today. You coached with Tennessee's new defensive coordinator, Tim Banks, at Illinois. Wondering, what do you remember about that time with him, and have you kept in touch or followed his career since you guys parted ways from there? What was it like seeing him back here at Tennessee?
Yeah, Tim Banks is one of the best men I've ever been around in the profession, and we were together for 4 years. Some good, some bad, but learned and grew a lot. I was really young at that point. I leaned on Tim in a lot of ways. Be honest with you, his wife, Robin, my wife really looks up to. She's kind of been through it. At that point, I was 26, 27 years old. My wife really looked up to his wife because she had been through the growing pains of the profession. But Tim has always been a guy that I can lean on, always been a shoulder to listen, I guess an ear to listen to. I didn't put my head on his shoulder. But one of the really, really classy, professional, sharp people in our profession. We have stayed in touch. It's in our profession, you try to catch up in the off season, see each other at camp, see each other on the road recruiting. But I've always respected how Tim goes about his business, how he approaches his job, his career, his family. He is exactly what you would want in a coworker, in a friend. So yes, the answer to all those questions is yes. We were close when we were there. We've certainly remained close. And I can't tell you, gave him a big hug yesterday when he got in, how excited I am to go to work with him. And obviously that relationship is important as we grow through spring and fall camp to be able to help each other and give looks and give each other different things that we need in terms of schematically. But I can't tell you how excited I am and excited to see his growth in the last 5 years too. I've gone my separate way, have grown in a lot of ways. And he has as well, has gone his separate way and grown in a lot of ways. We've both had a lot of success in our own ways. And I so fired up, couldn't be more fired up to have the man he is, the coach he is, the leader he is, leading that side of the ball. I think it's going to be a really, really good match. I think when both sides are on the same page, when both sides really are playing complementary football, I think it's huge. And our previous relationship can only be positive in a sense that we can bounce ideas off each other, but we can also play complementary football when it gets to playing football in real games and real situations. When things are hard, when things are tough and adversity hits, when you know the guys you're rolling with, makes it a lot easier. You got a lot higher chance of having success.
Last question, Jordan, before we get Cody over there.
Hi, Alex. Jordan Kramer, WATE. As far as the tight ends go, ideally in your offense, what is their role in terms of the passing game?
Yeah, I knew that question was coming. I was prepared for it. Really good question. Like I mentioned earlier, at the end of the day, and I think it's probably any scheme that you talk about, you're going to put the best 11 guys on the field, and you are going to try to create mismatches to adapt skill sets of guys at every position. So it depends on who you have, depends on who the guys are, depends on their skill sets. You would like to have guys that can play every down for you at the tight end position. I think tight ends are an integral part of our offense, integral part of any offense. But I think you're also going to adjust to their skill set. Going back to my time at Iowa State, we had a group of tight ends that were 3 of our 6 best pass catchers on the team. We used them that way. Our last year at UCF, the tight end group we had weren't as good a mismatch guys as potentially our receivers. So we didn't use them that way. I think the ability to adapt when you're running the offense is the biggest part of it. So not avoiding the question, but going back to what I had said earlier, we got to figure out what these guys can do. I'm super fired up about the room here in terms of what I've been able to see with the guys we have. There's 3 guys that have played a ton of football in that room. So now it's figuring out exactly what they can do in our system, fitting those guys into the system, and then figuring out how many do you have, what are their skill sets, and then at the end of the day, putting them in the best positions to win. So as a pass catcher, if we got a guy that can stretch the field, that can win in intermediate routes, then we would use them a ton as pass catchers. If we don't, then we wouldn't. And that's not a cliche coach talk answer. You're going to put the guys in the best positions to win. It's going to be the case at running back. It's going to be the case in quarterback. It's going to be the case at receiver. And so as much as we're capable of doing at the position the skill set allows, Jordan, I think that's how the answer will come. And I think you look back at Coach Heupel's lineage with tight ends going back to Missouri and what they had there, what they recruited, what they developed there, what he inherited at UCF, and then what I came into a year ago and now coming in here. I think every situation was really unique at that position specifically. But at the end of the day, if you're asking what would we like, we would like guys that can be multiple, guys that can flex out, guys that can attach, guys that can play in the backfield, to give you the ability to create mismatches with size and speed on interior guys like linebackers and safety. So, but I am really excited about this group, at least from what I've seen so far, from what the guys have done in the past, and really from what we've seen in winter workouts so far.
Thank you, Coach.
I appreciate it, guys. Really fired up, really excited, and look forward to meeting everybody not on a screen with boxes on it. So thank you so much. Go Vols.
We're actually going to skip around here. We've got offensive line coach Glenn Ellerbee. We'll take questions for Coach right away, so please hit the raise your hand option. We'll start with Jimmy Himes, then Luis Fernandez.
Coach, would you just talk a little bit about what you've seen in the offensive line room so far?
I think number one, what I've seen is just a bunch of guys that like being around each other. There's a really good chemistry. They seem to communicate well, enjoy learning the game of football. We kind of started not even with a base offense, but just trying to put 22 bodies on the field and learn what the structure was, and they loved that part of it. And then, I think a really good work ethic too. Guys have to push themselves a little bit more, but a really good starting platform.
Do you want offensive linemen that are more mobile and more athletic to run your offense?
I think there's always a fine combination. We have, over the years, gravitated to guys that are a little bit more athletic and mobile. We've pulled guys a lot more than we used to in the past. I think really, though, what you have to do is see what you have up front and mold your offense to what fits in the best. I mean, shoot, if a guy can't pull, it doesn't make sense to ask him to pull. And if he's big and burly and strong, then let's go let him knock somebody off the ball and try and make our scheme fit those guys.
Glenn, Luis Hernandez from WBIR. You're one of 3 offensive assistant coaches who are following Josh to Tennessee from UCF, who have had multiple years of experience with him. Why make that decision? What about Josh as a head coach makes you all want to compete with him?
Man, I think it goes back to when I was at Missouri. And I've said this a bunch. Hype was the scariest blend of the best human being that I've been around that actually cares about people, that cares about family, and is blended with a freaky smart guy. He's highly intelligent, and I don't know, man. I'd never been around anybody that was that genuine and that smart at the game of football, and have wanted to be able to work for him ever since I met him. And really the decision was pretty easy.
Go to David Oakland and Blake Topmeyer.
Glenn, as you guys are evaluating players on the recruiting trail, what is sort of your prototypical size for interior linemen versus tackles? And what are the things that you sort of are prioritizing, looking for?
Sure. Interior linemen, obviously trying to find guys thicker hipped, wider based, can hold up inside, especially in this conference a little bit more. Got brought up for the athletic piece of it. Man, I think if you can be wide, long-armed, hold a 320, a 330, and athletic enough to get out in space, that's the perfect freaky combination. Again, guys are going to have different traits that make them good linemen. That would be what you'd prototypically look for. Tackles, again, we'll try to find guys a little bit more foot speed, a little longer, arm length, huge piece of it. And then inside of that, like those are all the athletic traits that we're looking for. But because we're tempo, to me, everybody always asks what's the most important piece for a lineman. It has to be intelligence. Those guys got to be able to process fast. We're going quick. Doesn't matter how good an offensive lineman they are. If they can't make a decision like that, man, it's tough for them. So we'll bring them as far as we can, coach them, but they have to be intelligent football players.
Hey, Glenn, Blake Topmeyer, KnoxNews Sentinel. When you're during the first off season installing, an up-tempo system like this, what's the biggest challenge, do you think, for your players? And then you've been through this before in making kind of a 180 change in the offense at Missouri. What did that experience in that first off season teach you?
I think the kind of where we started here is typically the biggest change, because defenses morph so much when we play them week to week. You have to know where all 11 bodies are and actually be able to ID them, track them, know the game of football, not just inside of a box, but, man, where is the fieldback or the safety? Are they playing 3 or 4 down? And us be able to know how defense is actually structured and adjust at the beginning of a game. So I think that's probably the biggest change for guys when we first start. Going back to Missouri, man, again, I don't know if there's a secret recipe, but guys were hungry for success. They wanted to be able to go score points. And I just remember like vividly, we had the first scrimmage and man, maybe we had like 2 or 3 touchdowns. And all the coaches were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we just scored 2 or 3 times. And the players were like erupting on the sideline. You would have thought we won the freaking Super Bowl. And they just get where they enjoy it, man, enjoy the success of playing good on offense. And I think you just ask them to continue to do things differently, and they stay open-minded because they see the success it breeds.
More questions for Coach. We'll go to Gustavo, then Matthew Ryan.
Coach, have you studied the O-line that Tennessee had last year? And, what do you think one of the things they can fix or can improve from last year coming up this year?
I have watched individual cuts of them as players. I don't want to focus on the scheme from last year, like saying fix this or fix that, because, man, it's just not fair to them because whatever it was being asked of them, there's just going to be differences. Saying we got to fix this, fix that, we've got to learn how to play offense, find out what our guys do the best in our offense, and then, man, fix the issues that arise there. I know I'm not answering your question, but that one's a tough one because, man, wasn't able to coach them.
Glenn, Matthew Ray, Sports Illustrated. Before you were officially announced a Tennessee job, you were able to make a move on National Signing Day and get another tackle body in the class. How important was it for you to be able to identify a guy that you had already evaluated and knew that you could get to Knoxville to add another tackle body? And how hard was that given the restrictions that COVID prevented last year on the recruiting trail?
Right. I think Coach Height did a great job. Getting in, was able to early see that because of the way things have gone, that we do need depth at that position, have some good young players and a couple guys coming back, but that is an area that we needed depth. He did an awesome job of, kind of going back on past experiences of guys that we knew that were available, use some of those relationships. And I think with Jeremiah, you get a guy that is plenty athletic to do what we want and has the measurables. That was a huge piece for us. It'll definitely help us depth-wise and bring in a guy that's had a little bit more experience as well.
Thank you, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
right, we got wide receivers coach Cody Burns with us. To ask a question for Cody, please hit the raise your hand function and remember to call, state your name and affiliation. We'll start with Jimmy Hines and then we'll go to Luis Fernandez.
Cody, Jimmy Hines with the Sports Animal radio station in Knoxville. Talk a little bit about the attributes you want to see in a receiver: size, speed, the ability to run routes. Talk about those things in a receiver.
Oh, for sure. I think the number one thing for me, evaluating a wide receiver's ball skills. I think in this league, in the SEC, you have to have the ability to make competitive catches. So I think everything starts there. How naturally does he track the ball? Can he adjust? And also, can he make catches in traffic? Really is where it starts to me. And then everything off of that, there's speed, there's change of direction, there's yak. So really the ability to get extra yards with the ball in your hand. So there's a lot of different things that you look for in a wideout. But I think obviously the number one thing for me is ball skills, because that's where it starts, that is catching the ball.
Cody, you spent a lot of time, Luis Fernandez from WBIR, sorry. You spent a lot of time in the SEC throughout your career. I know as a coach, I think Auburn and Tennessee played each other a couple of times while you were there. What was your kind of thought from the outside looking in about Tennessee as a program, and why did you decide to come to Knoxville?
Really on the outside looking in, just in a generalization of Tennessee, is amazing tradition. Obviously, you think about the national championships, the conference titles, just one of the most known and respected schools throughout the country as far as just removing myself from football, looking at Tennessee. But obviously the last couple of years or so, Tennessee hasn't been to that standard that we feel like we can hopefully get to. And that's what we're trying to do, is build that culture back of Tennessee being a top tier program, which it is. That's the way that Tennessee is viewed. And now we just have to put that product out there on the field and continue to get better each and every day.
We'll go to Austin Price and Trey Wallace.
Hey, Coach, Austin Price, WesternRivals.com. Coach Golish spoke specifically about watching film from last year and or high school film. Have you been able to do that with your wide receivers, and can you just give them the overall scope of it? It seems like you've got some maybe unproven talent, but talent nonetheless, and guys that come in all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah, really, that's one of the first things that you do when you take a new job here at Tennessee. Have to really look at the guys that are on the current roster, really what their roles have been, obviously in the game, and also really, one of the biggest things is practice film. How does he practice? How does he learn? What is his skill set like? And then you go on to the high school guys that we signed and do the exact same thing as far as evaluating them to kind of put the pieces to the puzzle. Because me coming into it, I'm not familiar with a lot of these guys here. And so that's the best way you do get familiar with the guys on your roster.
Hey, Cody, Trey Wallace, Rocky Top Insider. Being from the Auburn area and recruiting maybe the Panhandle, the Gulf Coast, the Deep South, how big is that going to be to try to pluck players out of that area and bring them to Knoxville? And kind of what has been your philosophy on doing that the last couple of years at Auburn?
Well, I mean, philosophically, I think recruiting, number one, comes down to relationships. It comes down to knowing not just the student athlete, but also the people that are important to him. And so just philosophically, being in the SEC, obviously you're going to recruit more so the South than anything else. So I think the value that I bring is understanding this league, understanding how everything kind of intertwines and works as far as recruiting. And so I think that that definitely gives me an advantage, being able to say that and also have the experience of recruiting the SEC.
David Pascal and then Patrick Brown.
Cody, David Pascal from down here at the Chattanooga Times Free Press. Just kind of wondering what these past few weeks have been like for you. How much shock was there with the Auburn situation, given that that was a staff that was like 68-35 and had the success against Alabama? How much shock was there, and how long did that take to get over? And how happy are you to land at it, like you said, another school with a lot of tradition?
I'll tell you what, I mean, I've learned a lot since really being in this league. And obviously, this is the SEC for a reason. It's the best conference. You have the best players. It's the best football played across the country. And so, obviously, being let go at Auburn,
was a little bit of a disappointment, but not necessarily a shock, because the expectations that come with this league. And so the last couple of weeks have definitely been crazy. Really leaving Auburn and then headed to UCF and get to Orlando. It's warm, it's sunny. I'm excited about the roll. I know what Coach Hype does offensively. I'm excited to coach the receivers. And then obviously Coach Hype comes to Tennessee, and I have the opportunity to come here to be a part of his staff, which is a blessing. So I believe everything happens for a reason. I'm excited to be here and once again, ready to get to work.
Hey, Cody, Patrick Brown with Go 247, and you kind of talked about knowing Coach Heupel's offense and what it does. As a former receiver, how excited would you have been to play an offense like this and have your guys here express how excited they might be to get a chance to play in this offense that puts up a lot of points and yards?
No question. I mean, it's that, to me, that's the core of obviously in this league and what Coach Hype has done. You have to have obviously a balance between run and pass. But I think the numbers really speak for themselves of what Coach Heupel's done, not only in the SEC, but also outside of that. And obviously this past couple of years at UCF, the number speaks for itself. So if I'm a wideout, I'm excited about the future here at Tennessee and really what we're going to do offensively, throwing the ball. And it's more so the philosophy of getting the ball on the perimeter to your playmakers and letting those guys play. And like I said, once again, the numbers really speaks for itself. So that kind of recruits itself, and I think that's going to help us getting some big-time wide receivers in the future.
Go to David Oven and Brent Holmes.
Hey, Cody, David Oven with The Athletic. What have been your impressions of the receiver room that you inherited?
So when I first kind of just looked at the numbers, the first impression is very inexperienced. Lost a couple of guys the last few years that were very productive. We're going to be young, very inexperienced once again for this league, but there's also potential. So we have to just continue to grow, develop these guys into what we want them to be for our team, for our offense. And so it's going to be a challenge, and I'm excited about that challenge to truly develop these guys and get those guys to playing at a high level to what we think that we need to win.
Cody, Brent Holmes with VolQuest.com and Rivals.com. How would you describe your coaching style, one, and two, how easy is this offense to teach?
I would explain my coaching style as very relatable. I think that, number one, I'm young enough to where I'm not too far removed to really have a true relationship with my players. I think that's where everything starts. And then also I'm not too far removed to where I just got done playing to where I understand what these guys are seeing. And I really try to approach the game as if I'm a quarterback, as if my wide receivers are quarterbacks, because in my opinion, that's the hardest position to play as quarterback. And so really for me, if you understand the game as a quarterback, it's going to make you a better wideout. And so that's really the way that I approach as far as coaching my wideouts.
We'll finish with Blake, and then we'll get Coach Halzle up there.
Yeah, Cody, as someone who's coached against Tennessee, as recently as this past year, I mean, what was kind of the outside evaluation of this program? What as you looked at Tennessee from the other side of the fence, what was holding Tennessee back, and how do you go about fixing that?
I mean, I can't necessarily control what was going on at Tennessee beforehand. I do know that when I was growing up, obviously in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, as a kid that was in elementary school, junior high, high school, you saw really Tennessee as a powerhouse, that Power T, the brand that comes with Tennessee. And I think it's still that same way. The brand of Tennessee, the tradition of Tennessee carries weight. And now all we have to do is get to playing that type of football again to where people really get excited about Tennessee football. But on the outside looking in, Tennessee's always been one of the top, if not the top program around. And so that's the thought process that I think about Tennessee and the light that I think about Tennessee being in.
Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
now welcome quarterbacks coach Joey Halzle to ask questions for Coach. Please raise your hand. We'll start with Jimmy Himes, and then we will go to David Pascal.
Coach Jimmy Himes with Sports Radio in Knoxville. How would you rank these traits in a quarterback? Accuracy, mobility, intelligence.
Well, I think the main thing you say intelligence. A lot of people throw that around with the quarterback. For me, it's less about a GPA or a test score, or more about how quickly can they process what they're seeing and make decisions. So if that factors into intelligence, that is the absolute key for a quarterback. Can I see what I'm getting from a defense? Do I know what I'm supposed to do? Can I process that and make my decision? After that, it is accuracy, because if I know where I'm supposed to go with the ball and I can't get it there, it doesn't do much for me. So accuracy is huge, and that stems from your feet all the way up to your head. Do I get my feet in position with my hips, with my shoulders, with my eyes, so I can see everything, drive the football, make an accurate throw? And then the mobility is big, especially in this league. There's guys that can get after the quarterback here. We've all seen it. They get paid really well to do it on Sundays. So if you can get out of the pocket, that's an absolute plus. But those first two are big time in any offense, but especially this offense, where we're going to put a lot on our quarterback.
Joey, David Pascal down here at the Chattanooga Times Free Press. It says in your bio that you went into the private sector in 2017 and 18. Can you talk about what you did those 2 years? And I know Dabo Sweeney did the same thing early in his career. I was just kind of wondering, when you leave football, do you always have it in the back of your mind that, yeah, I want to get back in it?
Yeah, there were some things in my personal life I had to handle. Respectfully, right now, I won't dive into all that. But the whole time I was out, I knew I wanted to get right back in. Came in, Coach Heupel brought me right back to UCF, hit the ground running, and never looked back. It's, we're a football family. That's what we do. We love it, and we're excited to be here.
Gustavo, then Luis Fernandez.
Gustavo Tomazelli, WGK Volunteer Radio 90.3 Doha. Coach, have you watched any film with the quarterbacks available at Tennessee? And if Harrison Bailey was the starter last year, what are your thoughts about him?
Yeah, I've watched all the quarterbacks that are on campus right now. All their throws from the past 2 years. We have a bunch of talent here. There's guys that can rip it all over the field. There's guys that have played a lot of football, which is a good thing. There's not a solidified starter at this point. I've told all the guys that. They all know that. But I'm excited to develop this young talent that we have here and see if we can't make it as good as it can possibly be.
Joey, Luis Fernandez, WBIR in Knoxville. You're someone who, it seems like you've followed Josh just about every single stop he's made. What has your relationship been like with him? And during that time, how have you seen his offensive scheme evolve?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played for Coach Hype at Oklahoma. Then I worked with him there, and we've been together the whole rest of the way. You're absolutely right. He's grown so much in his offense, and that's what I love about working for Coach Hype is he's not dug into, I'm going to do this, whatever the talent is, whatever we have, whoever the players are, we're doing this, and they're going to fit it. He molds his scheme. He molds what he has to fit his players, and that's a testament to him. Now, we have our base stuff that we love and we're going to do, but he does a really good job of designing plays, designing an offense, designing a strategy to fit who is our guy, who are our wideouts, who is our back, what is our O-line. And then let's make them as good as they can be and put them in the best possible position to be successful, because that is our job. We teach, that's what we do, but our job is to make sure those guys can go out on Saturdays and be successful.
Patrick Brown, then Wilson.
Patrick Brown from Vols 247. Joey, I've heard this offense sort of described as quarterback friendly. You said a couple minutes ago that you guys put a lot on the quarterbacks. So would you agree that it's a quarterback friendly offense, or do you think it's maybe more complex than maybe some people think it is?
I would say quarterback friendly, and we're going to let you rip it. We're going to let you rip it all over the field. We're going to put a lot on you. And to me, I would say that is quarterback friendly, because we're not going to hold your hands. We're going to teach you. We're going to mold you into the best that you can be, and then we're going to turn you loose to go play ball on Saturdays. We don't make guys play scared. We don't make them afraid to make mistakes. Go out there, cut it loose. But we do put a lot on them. And in recruiting, that's a big thing for us. We're very upfront with that. And we want guys that think that is an awesome thing, that there is going to be a lot on the quarterback, that it is going to be on your shoulders to get us in the right play, to get the ball to the right spot. So in that sense, I would say it's very quarterback friendly, and that you're going to get an opportunity to showcase your skills every Saturday.
Yeah. Back in 2007, I guess it would have been, you were in a quarterback competition under Coach Heupel at Oklahoma with Sam Bradford and Keith Nickel. What do you remember about the way that Coach Heupel handled a quarterback competition, and how did it feel being one of the quarterbacks working through that under him?
Yeah, main thing I can say is it was done fairly, and that's all you can really ask for. That's all these guys have asked for, that everyone wants to feel like they got a fair shake at getting on the field. And if you end up being the guy, great. And all through spring, that's what it was. All through fall camp, that's what it was. And then they made their decision after that. We will handle it the exact same way here. Everyone's going to get a shot. We don't come in with preconceived notions. We've seen them play. You know, we've seen what we've seen, and then we're going to make a decision moving forward. But everyone's going to get an absolute fair shot to go be the guy on Saturdays.
David Upman and Dan Harris.
Yeah, Joe, when you guys are, David Upman with The Athletic, when you guys are teaching the offense, how do you do that to quarterbacks? I mean, is it in a book? Is it in an app? Is it whiteboard? What is that? If you're a quarterback trying to understand this offense, like functionally, how do you learn?
Yeah, starting point for us is, you know, you always got to do formation splits. We are different than a lot of people like that. Then you got to teach the individual routes that we're working. So we have a frame of reference when we're speaking to each other. You know what I'm saying. I know that you understand what I'm saying. And then how everything groups together protectionally to your run game. What are my run game rules? What are my protection rules? And you just build from the very beginning of splits, formations, individual routes, and then how does it all group into the full scheme of the offense? And then most importantly, how does the defensive structure fit into that? We're not just going out there blind and chucking it and hoping it works. We're going to have a reason for why we're doing everything that we're doing. So it starts with us, and then we work in how does the defense affect it? What's our response? And we move forward from there.
Coach Dan Harrelson with Fallsmeyer, USA Today Sports. You mentioned your relationship with Coach Heupel dating back throughout your coaching profession now, and then playing for him in Oklahoma. Just kind of talk about taking over the quarterbacks unit last year at UCF and now doing the same at Tennessee. Just kind of talk about the trust that he has in you to take over a position like that he's so accustomed to.
Absolutely. He is accustomed to it. That is his thing. That's his favorite thing to do, is coach quarterback still to this point. He trusts me because we've been together. I played for him. Like I said, we've been in the same meeting room for 13 years. He knows who I am as a coach. He knows that we value the same thing in a quarterback and how the offense is instructed, how it's taught. And he can trust that I will be an extension of his voice in that meeting room. And he's still going to show up. He can't help himself. He loves going in the quarterback meeting room. He'll walk in there. He's got a lot more responsibilities these days than he used to, but he'll never take his hand fully out of that quarterback room. And being a guy that's been with him for so long, doesn't pose a problem to me at all. You know, he's welcomed in there. A guy that's done it at such a high level for so long, it's a welcome thing in that room.
Last two questions, Blake, then Jimmy.
Joe, I haven't installed this system before at other places. What have you seen maybe is the biggest challenge for quarterbacks in trying to adjust and learn to this system? And what type of guys are maybe positioned to especially excel in a system like this?
Yeah, the main thing for them is a lot of systems will signal in or run in everything that they do. We don't do that. We put it, like I was saying earlier, on the quarterback, that when you get a certain signal or a certain play, you got to know how you're communicating to the O-line, to the back, to the wideouts. It's on you to do that. And at first that can be a little slow going because it's different. A lot of people haven't done it in the past. But once they get it and they grasp it and they hold on to it, now they enjoy it because it is on them and they get to make decisions. So that's the main thing, is getting them past that this is different to this is fun, if that makes sense. So that's the main difference right there. The type of guy is the type of guy that, you know, likes to go out there and just cut it loose. If you need complete direction on here, you go here, you go here, you go here, maybe it'll be a little bit of a struggle because we like to let you have some parameters within the offense to go and make us right, like I was saying. So it's the type of guy that wants to go cut it loose, have fun, spit it all over the field, and doesn't need to be told exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is how you go through every single thing.
Last question with Jimmy.
To Jimmy Hines again. There's some offenses where they like the underneath passing game, the short stuff, dink and dunk. Do you feel it's important to stretch the field? Do you need a quarterback that can throw the ball downfield?
Absolutely. We like to, with our wide splits, we do push the ball vertically. We do a lot in the run pass game. That kind of takes over a lot of the shorter stuff for us. But when we're playing in these splits and we like to push it vertically, a guy that can stretch it and really put a lot of stress on the defense is a big time attribute for this offense.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Where am I looking at? Camera.
We'll finish today with new running backs coach Jerry Mack. To ask questions for Coach Mack, please raise your hand. We'll start with Luis Fernandez.
Hey, Jerry, Luis Hernandez from WBIR in Knoxville. How did your time as a head coach at an HBCU like Central shape your philosophy and who you are as a coach?
Well, it was an amazing opportunity. I got an opportunity to be over the entire show from top to bottom, offense, defense, special teams. As a head coach, you have to be basically the CEO of a program. You have to be really in tune to what's going on. So that helped me on my next journey to be a coordinator. So, the people got smaller, or the situation got a little bit smaller, because now you're just dealing with one side of the football as opposed to the entire team. But I think just from an organization standpoint, just from a discipline standpoint, and just from having a macro perspective on how everything works together, really helped me a ton.
David Ugman, then Blake Topmeyer.
Yeah, what made you want to leave a head coaching job and go into a coordinator spot? And can you kind of walk us through that decision and kind of how that leads to right now?
Yeah, it was an opportunity to work with a lifelong friend. I think in this profession, anytime you get a chance to be around a group of men or a person that was one of your mentors or is one of your mentors, and a situation where we had been actually hoping to work together for so many years, I think I couldn't pass up on that opportunity to try to help a friend help build a program. And that's what I was trying to do when I took that opportunity to go to Rice, is try to help Coach Bloomgren build a great program like they had at Stanford University. And I think my 3 years there were well spent. I really think we were heading in the right direction and helping him get that program off the ground.
Jared, Blake Topmeyer, Knoxville News Sentinel, and most of this offensive staff was with Josh at UCF. How did you kind of fit into this thing, and where does your relationship with him date back to?
Well, it's a strange situation. Coach gave me a call probably the beginning of a couple of weeks ago, and he was looking for a person with a diverse background. And my background has been in a pro style system, has been in a spread system, and then also great ties to the state recruiting, and not only just the state recruiting, also just the southeastern part of the United States recruiting. That's where a lot of my connections and a lot of my relationships are built. So I think it was just a perfect fit. You got a young person, a person that's really in tune to a little bit different styles of offense, been all over the country, but also too, just from a perspective as relationships within the southeast part of the country has been really good.
As a former offensive coordinator, someone who studies offense, had you had much opportunity to evaluate what Josh does offensively? And I guess, from the outside looking, what were your impressions of what he was doing with his system at Missouri and UCF?
Oh, wow. High octane and explosive. I think any young person in the country wants to be a part of an offensive system like this, a system that at any given point in time, any time of the game, that you're going to be able to put up points. So everywhere I've been, I've always studied Coach Heupel's systems, and I had a chance to really now get into nuts and bolts and how everything kind of comes together. And it's really just amazing. It's just amazing, his mind and how those guys in the room mind work, because they've been in the system a long time. So I'm excited about getting an opportunity to really to learn and grow and all those different things that they bring to the table, and just add my input whenever I'm asked, or if I got a little different way of doing some things or terminology, some things, then that's really been good as well. So I'm looking forward to, as we continue to grow this thing, it's just what we're going to be able to put together.
Brent Hubbs and Jimmy Himes.
Coach Brent Hubbs with Rivals and VolQuest.com. When you talk to this staff, what made it feel like the right fit personality-wise? As you mentioned, you made the move to Rice because of the relationship you had there with the coach. What made this move the right move for you now from a personality standpoint?
Well, we're in a different world right now with the Zoom sessions and doing interviews through Zoom. Had a chance to call around. This is it's a big business, but it's a small business when you really get down to the nuts and bolts, because a lot of guys have worked together or had relationships built with other people that you know. So getting a chance to talk to some of my colleagues in the profession and just getting a chance to hear about Coach Heupel and the staff and Coach Golish and just how great they were to work with, just their family men, the type of men that you want to be associated with, the type of men that you want to be involved with. And that really kind of weighed my decision. I've had the opportunity to come to the SEC and work at the University of Tennessee, me being from the state of Tennessee. I also knew what kind of program this was. But when you get a chance in this profession to work with the people, because it's all about the people in the building when it's all said and done. And I think the people in the building are what's really important. And that's one thing that kind of swayed my way to kind of head this way.
Coach, Jimmy Himes with Sports Radio in Knoxville. Running backs come in all different shapes, sizes, speed, power back, and so forth. What are you looking for in a running back?
I'm looking for some diversity. A young person that we can actually flex out, a person that's really good from a protection standpoint, that's going to be really huge to make sure our quarterback is upright as much as possible. And then also, too, the ability to create. I'm looking for guys that can create their own plays. And sometimes I like to use the term BYOB, be your own blocker. It's going to be really important that our running backs are able to run through arm tackles. The tempo that we play at and the speed that we play at is going to have opportunities to get those one-on-ones in space with certain defenders. And I need guys that can make those safety miss. I need guys that can make those linebackers be elusive and make those linebackers miss. And I think we're on the right guys right now from a recruit standpoint. Not only that, I think just watching the film from practice and games from last year, we got some people in the building that's really dynamic with the ball in their hands.
And also, do you subscribe with the theory of rotating your running backs to keep them fresh?
I do. I think obviously the best person is going to play and start off the game. But one thing we're going to try to make sure we do, guys are going to earn the right to play. That's the biggest thing that I can tell you right now in our room. We're making strides toward that right now, not only on the field, but off the field, holding guys accountable, but you will earn the right to play. And I have in the past played with a few different backs, different styles of backs, different run schemes, blocking schemes, present a situation where you may need a different back in a certain situation. Situational football plays a big part of that as well.
Mike Wilson and Austin Price.
Yeah, Jerry, Mike Wilson from the Knoxville News Sentinel. You're a Memphis guy who's coached at Memphis and from that area. How important is that connection and your ability to recruit a very talent-rich area of the country?
Very important. I'm at an age now where a lot of my former classmates or a lot of people that I knew growing up in the city of Memphis, they all have children or children right now that are going into their senior year of high school, or they're going to be graduating from high school here in the next couple of years. So, just getting back into their part of the state has always been a hotbed. There's always, several players that are Power 5 football players, SEC football players from that part of the country in this state. And it's really important for me to get back over in that area and build those relationships and continue to develop those relationships. I have strong ties. My parents still stay in that area. I have aunties and uncles that all stay in that part of the country. So really getting a chance to get back there and rekindle some past relationships and keep building on the relationships that I already built are going to be really big for me in recruiting.
Hey, Coach, Austin Price with the VolQuest and Rivals.com. When you were kind of deciding on whether to take this job or not, did you kind of do any deep dive on some of the guys they had on the roster, or the end of the guys, somebody you were familiar with in recruiting? And then two, since you've gotten your kind of had a chance to watch some tape, because you do kind of have a diverse room as far as like guys that, like Nate Beckwith, who is like 6'3" and well over 200 pounds, or Jabari Small, who's more short and compact. I mean, you got kind of some diversity there.
Yeah, I think that's really been big for me. Just looking at, before I came here, just looking at our room in general, the big back style, the shorter, smaller, compact, shiftier guy. And that's what's going to be really big when I talked about the diversity of the room and the diversity of this offense, being able to plug and play different guys in certain situations. That was a big deciding factor as well. Anytime you get a chance to go to a certain place, you want to look at the roster, you want to see what the opportunity and what the chances are that they have some young people that's going to give you an opportunity to be successful. And that's what I did. I looked at the roster, I looked at what was coming back, even though we had a couple of guys transfer, but I'm still excited, extremely excited about the room that we have right now. Don't want to call out any names because I don't want to miss anybody, but I do think it's headed in the right direction. And these guys, with what I've seen from just the things that we've been doing so far, they're going to have an opportunity to be special.
All right, thanks, Coach, for joining us.
No problem. Thank you, guys.